these functions, which make a very visually attractive picture, they all belong to exponential functions. The one on the right here in green is a function of e to the x. The one on the left-hand side in black is e to the minus x. The one in blue at the bottom here is defined as fx is minus e to the x, and the red one is defined as minus e to the minus x. Now, what's interesting about them is the derivatives of these functions. I've drew them all here together so that we can visually see what's actually happening. Now, if I was to derive the first one, the function of e to the x, you know that by deriving that, f dash is going to be exactly the same, e to the x, which means that its slope function is exactly the same as function is equal to its original function. Now, let's do the one on the left-hand side, e to the minus x, the one in black. If I was to do a derivative of that function, I will get minus e to the minus x. Can you see that that function is actually is represented by the red function? But if I was to do derive this function here, okay, and if I was to derive this, the derivative of this function would be now e to the minus x, which basically means that the slope function is the upper one. Let's go and have a look at the right one over here. What happens if you do a derivative of this function here on the right? Okay, let's go for that. It is going to be exactly the same. Can you see the symmetry in all of this? It's not a bad idea for you to be able to visually see these functions in your mind. It's easy to draw the sign diagram of the derivative from here, because we know that all the values of x are positive when x is a member of the real numbers. If we have a look at the function here, the slope function, and we look at the sign diagram, you can see that it is going to be from here, okay, it's going to be negative. So we can now say that all these values will be negative when x is a member of the real numbers. Well, what can we say for this function over here? And when we draw the sign diagram of this function, we find that all the numbers are positive for x is a member of the real numbers. And to go to the last one, how do we draw the sign diagram over here? Sign diagram. Negative values of x for all real numbers, because these two are exactly the same. I hope that this visual information will give you something to think about. If you can always see this in your mind, it'll be extremely helpful. In the next video, I want to show you how to find the intervals for increasing and decreasing exponential functions that are a little bit more trickier.